Ooh, we are back, people. Finally, Against the Odds is finally back. Oh man, it's been so many months since I know I've been thinking about how do we get back on the bandwagon? How do we get back to publishing? And it's not just me, right? A lot of people have been asking me, what happened to your show, dude? I don't see a podcast episode. I see your YouTube videos, but that doesn't look like a podcast. Or is that also a podcast? And I don't really know. Well, that's what this episode's all about, right? I'm here to talk about a few updates regarding our show, few updates with what I've been going through, and to kind of give you an idea of what you can expect in the future. So, yeah, this is great. It feels great to finally be back. New location, new partners, new brands, new guests, but the same good old value that you can expect from our show. Yeah, talking about new stuff, let's roll the new intro. This is Against the Odds, and I'm your host, Akash Damodaran. This show is all about inspiring people to take the unconventional path and lead a life that is truly fulfilling and rewarding. Watch and listen as talented individuals take us through their learnings, the challenges they face, and how they continuously adapt to overcome them. Oh man, how I love our intro song. Dude, I know there's something about that tune. And even when I decided, back when I got started and decided on the right song or the right tune for our show, I thought I'll take, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and me just being the kind of overthinker that I am, I thought it'll actually, take me a long time to settle on a tune. But you won't believe it. I got into the catalog of these tracks, and the second song that I came across was this one. And right then and there, I knew this was the most apt and the most, I'd say, the right beat to complement the format of our show. And I'll tell you, a whole lot of people, especially people who find our show for the first time, always ask me, dude, where do you get that song? Did you make that song for your show? I mean, that's such an interesting song, such a very interesting upbeat track. And I'm like, well, I think I just got lucky. And well, it's a free track. Can you believe it? It's a free track. Anyway, this episode's going to be slightly different. It's more around updates, just because I haven't been publishing for so many months now, right? Like to say weeks, but sadly it's been a couple of months. But yes, it doesn't mean we completely stopped producing. We've been shooting, we've been doing a whole lot of things, and again, that's exactly what this episode's going to be about. I'm going to give you a couple of updates on what we've been up to. And yeah, also I'm trying to keep this episode very light, a little conversational. And when you think conversational, well, how can I converse with you guys, or am I talking to the lens? Yes, I am talking to the lens. I'm trying to keep it extremely impulsive, if that makes sense, and try to keep it super light. So I might, constantly look down at my laptop here, trying to figure out, what I should be talking about next. But yeah, there's no real proper script here. I'm just trying to keep it super light, but definitely going through everything that I have planned as an outline for this particular episode. All right, so first and foremost, let's talk about what we have achieved. Till now, if you've been following me on Instagram, or if you've been following our show, or maybe even my any form of content, even my YouTube videos, you'll realize that I haven't been talking too much about metrics. I haven't been talking too much about numbers. And that's because, well, this is something I've touched upon earlier, where I try to not think too much or delve into the numbers too much, because I think it can kind of be a little, one, misleading, and two, could, potentially not motivate you, right? Because everyone expects, for each of your videos or each of your pieces of content, episodes to go viral, and, you get like thousands or millions of views or listens, right? But what I've been really focusing on is just creating something that keeps my drive and passion lit, if that makes sense. Trying to just keep at the process, creating systems that just keeps me going. So for the most bit, I've been trying to ignore numbers. Now, I say all of this, but obviously it's not like I don't go on these dashboards either on my YouTube studio or my podcast hosting providers dashboard and take a look at the numbers. I do all of that. But what I've done as I got into the process more and more is try to stay off it as much as possible and try to instead focus more on the creation process. And I think that's worked for the most bit, because that kind of got me to stay consistent with releasing our episodes. Just a sec, I'm getting a call right now. Shit, can you believe it? Just 1 sec. Hello? Yeah, all set. That's fine. What time will you be here? That's okay. Come on down, no issues. Sure. No issues, man. All right, see you, bye. Can you believe it? I actually have a guest coming in today. Should I tell you who it is? Well, it's Macwin D'Souza, Macwin Ian D'Souza. You guys might know him as Mac Macha. So he's coming down here, and I thought I'll quickly shoot this before we get into the podcast recording and shooting, and especially because we already have everything set up, right? So yeah, where was I? What was I talking about? So Mac Macha is one of the guests you can look forward to in our series for sure. Yeah, so talking about numbers, right? We have now hit 165k downloads, listens, views. 165,000. Man, that's ridiculous. I'm part of a lot of these podcast groups, a lot of these podcasters who I interact with as well, who all talk about how it's so difficult to hit that 10k mark, the 50k mark, the 100k mark. And I've just not been focusing so much on the numbers, but I think just having, put out content very frequently and regularly. And again, like I said, consistency is one thing, but at the same time, being very intentional about the kind of content you put out, I think has definitely paid off. And we're now at 165,000 views, downloads, and listens across both video and audio. And that's just incredible. Dude, I cannot believe this. This is the first time I'm actually talking about numbers, like I said. So when I looked at it too, I was looking at a way to share it over newsletter. So I have a newsletter. I will talk about that as well in this episode. But when I was looking at what we have been able to achieve, I was just mind blown when I kind of added up the numbers, and I was like, holy crap, this is just ridiculous. So it still hasn't set in, and I don't think it'll ever set in. I cannot believe that 165,000 times people have tuned in. Some of you might have tuned in twice. Some of them probably views or listens from my end itself, or maybe from my family members. Shout out to you family members. You know who you are. I would like to first and foremost just thank everyone for all the support, for literally just either helping me out in the process in so many ways. You know who you are. If you've either helped out with equipment, or you're helped out with just making this thing a reality, or if you've just helped out getting the word out there, right? Or if you're just helped out with, just regularly tuning in. That itself is a huge deal. It doesn't cost you anything, but the fact of the matter is that it is your attention, it is your time that you have to spend when it comes to watching or listening to our show. And so it really means the world to me that I've got so many people listening and tuning in. So this kind of thing definitely reinforces what I'm trying to put out there. It kind of makes me feel nice, warm and fuzzy inside. Apart from that, it also makes me feel like I'm on the right path. For the most bit, since I got started, right, I haven't really gotten too many negative feedbacks. There might be small technical things that, and these are actual constructive feedback and criticism I would have gotten from other creators or from just the audience itself. And we've tried to figure out what's the best way to kind of put all of those together. But for the most bit, the feedback's been pretty positive. The reception's been pretty positive, and it's crazy. And for everyone who's been DMing me on Instagram, my God, how many people DMing me, telling me that the show's just been so helpful and it's just been incredible. It's just something that I really thought would never happen. And again, I haven't really shared any of this on Instagram or on my content. But you guys know who you are if you've been DMing me, and a lot of people who've been reaching out to get help with getting started with their creation, their content creation journey too. And wherever I could help out, well, I've done that. So yeah, if you still have anything that you'd like to discuss, then just reach out to me on Instagram or just send me an email and I'll get around to you. My schedule's a little all over the place, but I will get around to you. I do check all my emails. Right. And what I'd like to talk about is, and I think this just gets me thinking. It just gets me to reminisce. It's been more than a year since we started publishing and close to a year and a half since we started planning and organizing and, shooting, recording all of these pieces of content, especially the podcast. And man, it's crazy that we started literally, and I say we because it hasn't just been me. It was either my interns or my wife who constantly helps me out. She still helps me out with some of our shooting and recording of the episodes. For instance, today as well, she's here, so she'll be here sitting literally behind the scenes, helping out with restarting some of these equipment, checking the focus on some of them, and it's great. So we started literally in the dining room, right? If you remember, in my dining room of my previous place, and I didn't really think that we'd be able to move into a studio of our own, and then from that studio move into this studio, which is even better, I feel, and get numbers, get brands, get partnerships behind us that really support and believe in what we're trying to put out there. So it's really, 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 I'd like to say I'm really, really grateful. Let's put it that way. And at the same time, I think it goes to show that if you have like a fair idea of what you want to do, I'd like to say crystal clear, but then the funny thing is most people don't even know what they're supposed to be doing. And even in my case, I wasn't entirely sure where this was going to go. The idea was to just get started and just get to it. And over time, kind of figure out what are the ways you can improve things? What are the ways we can up our game? What are the ways we can get brands on board, sponsors on board, partners on board, and whatnot? So that iteration and that just getting into it and just doing it has just been like super, super beneficial, I'll tell you. And I think another thing I should definitely touch upon is being consistent has helped us a ton. If you look at how we have released our episodes, you'll realize that ever since we started publishing, we haven't even skipped a single week up until obviously the second wave when we decided to take a break. But up until that point, we had like, I think 38 or 40 weeks of content going up every single week. That was super beneficial in so many ways. The traction, the feedback, the learning, everything compounded. And I think for the most bit, it was just getting into those cycles of creating, editing, shooting, producing, publishing, marketing, and then understanding that entire cycle really got us to understand the whole process. And personally, I've learned so much from just getting going. So if you guys are thinking about doing something, it could be on the creation side of things, on the content side of things, or that could be maybe you have a business idea that you've always wanted to get around to doing, just do it. Just get around to narrowing in your focus on one particular area and keeping it very, 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 very focus driven, if that's the simplest way to put it. And once you get to that point, I think everything else will kind of fall into place because you're showing up and you're constantly putting in effort, money, maybe time. And the more you do that, the more you get into those cycles of thinking, the more you get your hands dirty, the more you'll realize the different ways that you can up and take things up to the next level. At the same time, you'll realize what's not working and you get better at the craft. And I think that's honestly what I've been trying to do for the most bit. And just doing this over and over again has gotten us so many things. Now, obviously, we had to take a break from publishing, right? We stopped publishing, I think, sometime in May. Actually, if it was a little before that when we stopped shooting itself, because somewhere around March, April, May is when the second wave just started, running havoc, right? And it was a little tough with how rampant COVID was. Hearts go out to everyone who has been impacted by this godforsaken virus. At that point, I remember ours being an in-person show. I wasn't entirely sure if whether we should even think about getting our guests to the studio. If we didn't get the guests, then how do I keep the show going? Because I'm a big subscriber to just keeping at it in terms of just creating, and it really hit me hard when we had to take a break. It was not our choice, obviously. We just had to do it. But I think that break was super, super, super beneficial, both from my podcast as well as non-podcast perspectives. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. Things that you don't imagine would happen, things that you expect maybe doesn't happen, things that you don't expect end up happening. But I think for the most bit, if you are able to look at things half full, if you can look at it from a positive perspective, then there's always, always a silver lining. And I think in this case too, our break was super beneficial because it got me. Let's get into those updates. So I'd like to first talk about the non-ATO, non-against the odds, non-podcast updates, right? So first, our work really got noticed. I mean, a lot of people telling me that the production quality has just been incredibly good. Thank you so much for everyone who's told me that. It really reinforces the effort and time I'm putting into this. And along with that came a lot of money, a lot of clients, brands, individuals who wanted to work with me or my small team to create something that impacted lives or created something that was of high quality in terms of production. And initially, I remember this was even before the second wave, I started taking up most of these offers because, well, I had to make money. And at the same time, I was very inquisitive, very curious about where this might lead. And also there's this whole imposter syndrome, right? I was thinking, dude, I'm not even, like cut out for something like this, right? I'm not gone to design school. I'm not gone to photography or videography school. So what gives me the right to do something like this? And why are these people reaching out to me? I mean, I can only create something that I have envisioned, right? So it was a little, I'd say in the beginning, it was a little wavered. I started taking up anything and everything that came my way. But over time, especially during that second wave, I decided to be extremely intentional about the kind of work we took on outside the podcast and my original content. So let's say any of the client work that I was taking on, was very, very intentional about who we were partnering with. So a lot of the brands, and again, see, I personally feel I'm here creating all of this to impact individuals, to impact the community in general, and just help other creators, other entrepreneurs, and other people who want to do something in their lives. So a lot of these brands that I was working with, I realized we're doing a lot of these regular production gigs. I decided, you know what, it's just not a waste of my time, but it was just taking up a lot of my time, and it was good money for sure. But I think I decided to draw the line there and say I'll probably get a few brands off the list of clients that I'm working with, and maybe focus a little bit more on maybe one or two brands and a lot more individual creators and a lot more individuals who want to put themselves out there and help them out as much as possible, right? And that also meant that it kind of gave me more time to focus on my original content, because doing all of this client work is good money, it's great, but I don't want to say burnout, but I was getting to a point where I was just tensed about when do I get around to creating my YouTube videos? When do I get around to shooting my podcast? Right? So I'd like to say that it was very easy and came very naturally, but honestly, I think once you decide to say no to the things that don't entirely matter, or maybe not in the long run, I think at that point, other things kind of fall into place. And that's exactly what happened with me too. So then I was able to clearly draw out a line or two boundaries with the kind of people I was working with my clients. That's one thing. And then on the other hand, everyone who's been following me on YouTube, you'll know that I've been publishing a lot of YouTube videos, and again, high quality, narrated, well color graded, everything from a production standpoint that I finally got around to doing because I found these pockets of time to do just that. So that was great. I got around to doing that. So now I learned the ropes of what it takes to create those kind of short form content. Again, for people who don't know, basically I create YouTube videos in the self-help, personal growth space. Again, something that complements the format of the show here. So for everyone who doesn't want to tune into long form conversations here with our guests or with just me, they can just go check out my YouTube channel and see some of these videos for themselves. So yeah, so it got me to do that. That was one thing. Another thing was website. I finally got around to publishing my website and creating something that people can go to understand what is it that I'm trying to do here, who am I, and also kind of a catalog of all my pieces of content, from my YouTube videos to my podcasts and whatnot, even my entrepreneurial ventures, all of that, all under one umbrella, which is my website. So I finally got around to doing that. And along with the website came another thing, my newsletter. Dude, this is something I've been working on for so long. I love writing, and I've been thinking about how I can get my written form content out there. And newsletter seemed to have been the best way to go. I thought about blogs, but then I realized that's a different ballgame altogether. But I think there's a simple way to kind of build a connect with the audience, and I think newsletter is definitely one way to go. So this newsletter complemented my website, and that is something I've started publishing. I think I've put out about three or four newsletters in the last 2 months or so. So basically, it's a bi-weekly, once every 2 weeks newsletter. So if you have the time for it, and if you like keeping your mind thinking about the important things in life and really getting you thinking about how you can lead a meaningful life and just get around to acting, then I would highly recommend checking out these newsletters. I share like really short form write-ups every 2 weeks, and I'm sure it's going to benefit you. I'll probably leave a screenshot or two here about how people have been impacted by the newsletter too. So yeah, check it out. I'll leave links to my website as well in the description below, so you can go check it out and subscribe to my newsletter. What else did we have? So from an against the odds perspective, from an ATO perspective, from my podcast perspective, I was able to take in all the feedback and see how things could be improved and taken to the next level. The idea here with my podcast is to create evergreen content, is to create something that even if someone took a look at maybe 10 years later, 10 years down the line, it still holds enough equal value as it does today, and or maybe more. And who knows, how people might look at things now, what's the kind of world we live in. But I think the kind of topics that we talk about, the kind of conversations that we're having here, is something that is definitely evergreen. And taking in all the feedback and comments I got during this break, again, I was able to kind of collate them, look at it all under a microscope, and then realize, okay, these are things I should be focusing more on. These are the kind of guests I should be getting on. These are the kind of directions I should be taking with the conversation. For the most bit, we kind of realized that if you are able to kind of keep at it, consistently. Again, I spoke about consistency a while ago. I know a lot of people who have been creating content for like months or even years together, but they've been doing the same thing. But I think the only thing that is inevitable is change, right? You have to change. You have to keep up. You have to really roll with the punches. It's something I've spoken about time and again on the show before, but just keeping up with that is such an important thing. And that's something I started doing more and more, especially because I got time during this break. And I think you'll see that reflecting in the kind of content that we're going to put out there. You see, this is the first time I've ever done something like this. I'm shit scared right now to just sit down and just talk. I'm looking at the lens right now and it's super awkward. I don't have a proper script. My YouTube videos, which I've been putting out, is properly scripted. There's like a plan. I know what I'm supposed to be saying. I'm trying my best to kind of memorize the lines and, kind of maybe even put it in my own words. But here, I'm really trying to wing it. And I think that's something that I've noticed. A lot of people tell me that, the kind of small piece of content where you put out on Instagram or your stories or, wherever you have engaged with us directly, it actually makes a huge difference or a huge impact. A lot of people have told me about the intros or even the outros where I kind of, do a little off the cuff not rant, but maybe talk about these important things. And a lot of people have told me that it's very different and it's nice. So I thought I'll do just that. So this is one of those feedbacks or comments that I was talking about earlier. But yeah, so it really got us to rethink the show a lot. But what I've realized is a lot of the things we were doing okay for the most bit. So those smaller things, now we're really focusing on to kind of take things to the next level. Another thing I realized is that once you cross a mark, right, either in terms of the number of weeks you've been publishing content or number of views or listens or downloads and whatnot, people start to pay heed. People start to pay attention and they realize that you're doing something. There's something innately beautiful about you showing up again and again and again. I think like halfway through, when I say halfway, about maybe 6-8 months into publishing content, which is what, 6-8 into 4 or 5 weeks per month, right? So that many episodes, we realized that, man, there is something happening where a lot of brands, a lot of sponsors are now reaching out and they want to get a plug in our show. And again, because our show is both video as well as audio, and again, podcast is conversational, right? It is, I'd say, a high retention format in terms of content. So there is definitely a lot of money when it comes to brands and sponsorship deals. But we were a little specific about who and what and which brands that we were going to partner with. So for the most bit, we didn't see the right kind of brands reach out. And again, I think we are slowly holding off for those right names to come by. But yeah, I realized that we should be focusing on how we can improve the value and improve the narration or the storytelling aspect of the show more than having to just worry about making money. Like I said, we already had client work and those things kind of checked off my, basic boxes. But in terms of improving the show, I felt partnerships are what we needed to be looking out for, and collaborations. So on that note, we got two big partnerships going, which is going to be pretty much, I mean, these brands are going to be with us, these partners are going to be with us for the foreseeable future. So the first one that I'd like to talk about is something I never thought in my wildest dreams would come true, which is Sennheiser. Man, oh man, I can't believe that Sennheiser, one of the world's leading audio providers, is now, our audio partner for the show. Oh man, it still hasn't sunk in, and it's one of the best brands that we have ever worked with. Shout out to Anish for making this collaboration or partnership happen, and huge shout out to Piyush Mahajan from the Sennheiser team, who's been working with me from day one and who's given us enough freedom, leeway to create on our own terms, create on our own timelines, not pressuring us to want to have to, I don't know, do things a particular way. So huge shout out to Piyush and his team. And yeah, so right now Sennheiser, as you can see, or maybe you can't, I think this camera has stopped running, so you'll probably see the backdrop on our TV screen here that says the audio partner is Sennheiser. And yeah, they've helped us out with these top-notch microphones and also a few other audio equipment as well. But yeah, I really never thought that this would be possible so early on in our creation journey. So this is just great. And yeah, I remembered having this conversation on Clubhouse a while ago where I think I'd mentioned in one of those chats that Sennheiser now powers our show. A lot of people's ears perked up and they were like, how did you make that happen? And honestly, I'd like to just say, and I think it's just keeping at it in terms of, keeping at it in terms of creating and ensuring you're creating something of quality. You don't treat your audience like shit, and you don't just turn up for heck's sake and just put some shoddy nonsense out there, but you just keep publishing quality stuff. And then, like I said, people will pay attention. And that was the same thing here. Although we might not have hit huge numbers in terms of subscribers on YouTube, or our following is relatively okay on audio, our numbers and retention and traction and CTRs is being great. And I think more than anything, quality speaks for itself, right? So Sennheiser kind of noticed that when we started talking, and they have decided to, I guess, really invest and partner with us for the long run. So excited for what's in store. And yeah, I can't believe it, and I can't wait to see where this goes as well. So yeah, so that's the first thing. Sennheiser is now our audio partner, and second is our community partner. So we moved away from the previous space for so many reasons. We weren't entirely happy there, and decided to find another space that's a little more hospitable environment, right? And some place where guests could easily come on over. And well, that is the space that we finally got. And ta-da, we now have Open Jam Studios, who would be our community partner going forward. Shout out to Marcel Hoover and Shubhoshish. man, this is another thing. We had to figure out how we would move out of that space and move into another location. And again, we had a few inquiries and few co-working spaces itself that we were in talks with, and then finally we settled on Open Jam Studios on Church Street and decided to set our roots here and just get around to creating in the studio. So yeah, so if you're in Bangalore and you're looking at recording something in a studio, you need a nice professional setup, and you don't have the equipment to record things in terms of audio, this is the place to be, because they provide you with the entire infrastructure to create end to end. Not on the video side, more on the audio bit. But having said that, on the video side of things, if you want to work with me, or you need my help and you'd like to be one of my clients, and again, we're not really taking on clients right now, but then again, like I said, I'm really looking at helping individuals and creators. If you'd like to be part of that, then you can always reach out. And the audio bit is already sorted. The video thing is something we can definitely help you out with. So yeah, reach out to us on Instagram. You can reach out to OpenJam directly. I'll leave links to all of that in the description below. That's another exciting thing that I had. And finally, instead of taking up sponsors and looking at things on the monetary side, we decided to go with collaborations. And for the next couple of episodes, Hubhopper will be collaborating very closely with us. Yeah, if you wish to start your own podcast for free, you should visit hubhopperstudio.com. Hubhopper is one of India's leading podcast creation platforms. Start your podcast with Hubhopper Studio, which is basically a hosting provider, and get your voice heard across numerous platforms like Spotify, Google Podcasts, Wink Music, Ghana, and more. Yeah, I'll leave again a link to all of that in the description below. But support one of our Indian hosting providers. And shout out to Shubhangi from the Hubhopper team for making this happen. But yeah, so this is the collaboration that we'd be going forward with for the next couple of episodes. For the monetary bit, we're still, like I said, holding off for the right names or the right brands to come along, and I think it's going to happen very, very soon. Super excited about that too. And now coming to what the future holds, there's just so much that we have in store for you, man. I'm so excited, and we have shot a whole lot. I'll tell you another thing. Since we started publishing content, I think about 6-8 months in, we had a whole lot of people reaching out, either from their PR teams or from these individuals itself reaching out, who wanted to be on our show as a guest. We tallied the numbers recently, and it was about close to 210 guests who wanted to be on our show. This is just ridiculous, right? Why do 210 people want to be on my show? That's just crazy. But having said that, intentionalism is something I very, very seriously follow. So I was very mindful or picky about the kind of guests that we have on. And you might have seen that too, kind of flowing into the conversations and just into the entire series itself. So yeah, very mindful, very picky about who we have on. So we have a proper R&D vetting process, trying to see where the person's coming from. Have they really battled against the odds? Are they still battling against the odds? And what are they actually doing with their lives? And is there a way they can add unique value from their journey or their experiences or from these conversations to your lives? And I think that's what we've been putting on the forefront for the most bit. So yeah, like I said, we have already shot quite a few of these episodes, and man, I can't even describe them, because they turned out to be even better than I imagined. Like I said, certain expectations you have probably doesn't live up to them. In this case, man, these conversations completely exceeded these expectations. So we have already shot episodes with guests like Disha Madan, Urvashi Govardhan, or Urvashi HV, considering she changed her name recently, Jishnu Dasgupta from Swaratma, Sonali Swami, Varijashi Venugopal for you music lovers, Sal Yusuf, and Macvin in D'Souza, who's going to be here very soon to shoot. Actually, he's on his way. He's the one who called me a while ago. And yeah, so many more as well. So I can't wait to share all that with you. And I can assure you that the episodes that we have right now waiting to be published in our backlog are just incredible. So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed, if you're not following our show, then now would be a right time to do so. And finally, I think this is a good place to close things out. So I had a very simple closing thought that I'd like to talk about, and for the most bit, I like approaching things practically and getting my hands dirty. And this entire show itself is literally like an experiment. It's just to let people know if you want to do something with your life, especially something that can impact others, that can add value to someone else's life, or maybe it's just something you want to get around to doing, just freaking do it, yo. I know it sounds super cliche, and Nike has gotten it spot on, but just do it. Don't think, don't, I mean, you can do a little bit of planning, but don't overthink it, don't overplan it, just do it. Try doing it for 30 to 45 days straight, and you'll know whether you're cut out for this or not, or whether you even want to do it in the first place. And again, I'm this might sound really weird, like I might be blowing my own trumpet, but I'm living testament to someone who can just flip careers. I'm a techie or a guy who had a corporate desk job and decided to completely move out of that and start an F&B business, and then move side by side, also move into the content space and start creating YouTube videos and do everything that I'm doing. Just do it, man. And just put your mind to it and just turn up on a regular basis. Have that discipline and conviction to kind of follow through on whatever it is that you have planned, and it will all work out. And it might not be exactly the way you have it pictured in your mind, but I'm telling you, it will eventually fall into place and you will find direction. And again, that's the only way you can find purpose or passion. And this whole passion purpose thing, again, we talk about that at length in the upcoming episodes, but it could take you a couple of weeks. Maybe you already know what your purpose or your passion is, or it might even take you years. But the important thing is that you don't stop trying. The important thing is that you keep at it, and that's the only way you'll get around to understanding what and where your passion, your heart, and your purpose lies. So do that. And if you need any guidance or help, then might I recommend you just check out my YouTube videos, which I have been working super hard on. I'm sure it'll give you some sort of direction and some sort of idea with what you need to be doing to pursue that path. And also, I'd say another complementing factor would be my newsletter, like I mentioned before. So yeah, if you haven't signed up for that, go check it out on my website and sign up for my newsletter. And finally, if you need direct advice or conversation, or you just want to talk to me, then maybe follow me on Instagram and DM me, or you can just email me too. You can reach out to me. Again, my email's in the description below, or if it's not there, it's on my website. So go check it out, reach out to me. And okay, actually, yeah, I've actually jotted this down. I think I should definitely touch upon this. I don't know if someone else has said this, but this is a nice quote. Live your life the way your ideal version would want you to live your life. I'll say that again. Live your life the way your ideal version would want to live your life. Sounds stupid, simple, and it actually just sounds plain old stupid. But yeah, the simplest solutions are the best answers to doing anything complex. And you guys know how complex life can get. So yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap things up. Like I keep saying, I can't believe what we've been through, and I cannot believe that we actually have gotten to this point. Again, 165,000. What the hell, man? That's just ridiculous. Anyway, I can't wait to share what I have in store for you. And yeah, I hope you get to do everything that you want with your life. And if you need any help, like I said, I'm always here. Cool then. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.